What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to For The Fans, the Football Manager bi-weekly podcast with myself, Jack, and my co-host, Ben. We've got Omar, or Merkison Predicts, as a guest today. We're going to be talking about the FM14 release date and the weekend's football fixtures. Well, let's get straight into this. So cracking on straight into this, guys. Welcome to For The Fans. It's me, Jack. I've got Ben. Ben, say hello as always.
Alright.
And we've got Omar, or Merkison Predicts, on the show today, guys.
Hello.
If you don't know who Omar is, Football Manager YouTuber, go check him out. Just to kick things off, guys, we are available on iTunes. We forgot to mention this last week, but down in the description there is a Podbean link. From there you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and get it downloaded automatically every week it goes up. So there's that. And yeah, Omar, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit more? Because I'm sure there's people who aren't familiar with your channel.
Right, so if you don't know who I am, yeah, it's Merkison Predicts, as Jack just said. I do a channel very similar to Jack's. It's Football Manager based, and basically my favourite series has been the Chester Mission, which we're going to touch on later by the sounds of it. And so yeah, I try and give tips. I'm an average Football Manager player, and if you don't know who I am, come and have a look at my other channel.
He's way better than Jack.
Yeah,
way better.
A million times.
So, yes. I'm just going to concede it now. But anyway, we're going to kick off this episode with something that we were meant to do last episode, but we forgot about. So, me and Ben, every week, we're going to have guests on, and we're going to be talking about our five-a-side teams. So, the whole idea is the scenario where you sit at a coffee table and you have your tea party and you have guests come in. It's like that, but it's a five-a-side game. So, we're going to be talking about our five-a-side teams, who we'd pick, and who we'd play alongside. So, Ben, do you want to kick things off?
Right, you want my entire team, right?
Yeah, just
well,
bish, bash,
I've got
bosh.
reasons for all of them. So the first one is Janino Punakapacano. Yeah, that one. He can teach me his free kicks.
Is that his actual name?
Oh, that's pretty close.
I'm impressed.
Then I've got Sir David Beckham.
Are you just going with a team of free kick takers here?
Well, no, David Beckham's good to look at. And his passing ability is not bad either. Then I've gone for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because he's Fox in the box. And he was the only Man United player I think I've ever liked in the history of Manchester United. Finally, now this is the pièce de résistance. Obviously, I'm in goal, just to clarify. So I needed a defender. I needed someone that was going to stop all comers. So I've gone from Harry Potter's Professor Lupin, as he, for a time, was Defence Against the Dark Arts.
That's such a terrible pun.
Yeah. What do you mean? Well, you say terrible, but is he going to be conceding? One, he's got magic. Two, he's a professor. Three, Professor Lupin.
See, this is true, but I thought this was a football podcast. So I went with footballers. I don't know, Omar, did you go with footballers?
I did go with footballers, just...
There's the fair share of footballers in there, but variety is the mother ingredient. So, someone else go.
Omar, do you want to kick off?
Right, so I am the beast in defence. You know, just a bit of a libero, just passing the ball.
Not a professor, though, are you?
We have Dennis Wise in midfield. Oh, a bit of a bite to him. And then we have Zinedine Zidane next to him. And we have Neil Harris up front, Mill's all-time record goal scorer. Just putting it in there. And then we have Oliver Kahn in goal. Emotion.
For those who have gone onto Omar's channel, thought they've liked him, and are now discovering that he's a Millwall fan, unsub Woody. Anyway, my team, I've gone with Zidane as well. I feel like that was stolen from me by you, but there's me, of course. I'm playing in goal, because why not? We've got Zidane, who's just going to be the psychopath in the centre. I've gone with Chris Kamara, Ian Holloway, because we all have a bit of Ian, and Michael Owen, because he's the most interesting man in the world.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Right, good.
Okay, so FM14, should we kick off with a bit more Football Manager? That was something that we kind of got from last episode, was people were like, more FM. So, more FM sooner this episode. FM14 release date, lads. What do you make of the game? What it's shaping up to be?
I'm pumped. I'm ready for it now. Like, the fact they bring out a release date annoys me a bit because I want it now. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for it. I don't know. Anyone else ready for it?
Oh, I'm ready for it. It's just they give a release date and then they're like, there might be a beta 2 weeks before this release date, so you don't really know when it's actually out because the beta is just the same.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. 31st of October. You didn't mention that, did you?
31st of October is the date in question. Omar, are you getting ready to book days off work?
Of course, mate. I've already planned it out, and I've got 23 allotted days. I think I'm going to use about 20 for Football Manager. But I mean, it's interesting that it's coming out on a Thursday. I've got I don't know why it's coming out on a Thursday. I thought they normally do it on Tuesday or Friday.
I'm trying to think. There is a reason they do release games on Sundays. Obviously, GTA comes out this Tuesday.
Woo!
Which obviously people are clearly listening to this whilst they're playing GTA. But I don't know.
I know I am.
I'm trying to think. I think in past years the games come out later, and a lot of people were expecting it to come out later than it is now. But I think they weren't actually intending for like the other FM games, especially FM 13, to be out as late as it was. So I like the format as well with the beta or beta before, where it's kind of early access to the game. But at the same time, I don't know if you can remember FM 13 when that came out, but there was the crossing problem where like every cross went in on the beta.
What a mess. But I'm ready. Has there been any like other big features, or is it just a release date really? Apart from the cloud.
Oh yeah, there was the tech release, wasn't there, this week? So there was cloud saves. I know they've talked about kind of you being able to download user created like databases and stuff, which is cool. And then they've also mentioned stuff like graphics and kit packs, but I don't know how that's going to work around copyright and stuff.
Yeah, they did. Does that mean, like, as you mentioned with copyright, because obviously I feel like what we do at the moment by downloading packs isn't necessarily illegal, but it's frowned upon, but they seem to be saying, go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's the way they set it out, because obviously Sports Interactive, they don't get all the licensing sorted, but they make it so easy to kind of patch the Germany national side, add your own logos in and whatever. So it's a funny one.
Well, you know, I'm sure they've got a reason for wanting us to do it. And will they provide it then?
Well,
or is it just going to be user-based?
I think it's going to be the Steam Workshop, which is used in a lot of games now, where it's like the users can create stuff, then upload it. I don't know, Omar, are you familiar?
I'm not too familiar with it, no, but I think it is kind of based around the users, and I don't think they would go behind copyright back and then make it for us, unless it's something really stingy.
Yeah.
Or they make you pay for it or something.
Not a fan of that idea.
But anyway, of course, with a new football manager comes a new database, which comes new transfers, which transitions just about in a roundabout way to Mesut Ozil making his debut for Arsenal this weekend. So, yeah, guys, what did you think of Arsenal's performance against Sunderland?
I think it was okay. I think people rave about Ramsey quite a lot. And the biggest thing for me is Sunderland aren't that good. So, like, even though Arsenal beat them 3-1, I just don't really rate Sunderland very highly. But then again, Ozil looks like... He's Mesut Ozil, isn't he?
Yeah.
After me saying 2 weeks ago, Arsenal won't get anyone as good as Fabregas. And they went
I think a lot of people went ham in the comments about that.
Yeah. So thanks for mentioning that, everybody. That was great. But I think he's, like I say, he's Mesut Ozil. He's going to fit in and he's going to be really good. And he's already proved that he is really good.
I think I saw some stat like in the game yesterday. He did the record amount of passes this season so far by an individual player in the opposition half or something. It was some weird statistic, which was essentially he was providing a lot of passes in the final third, which is something that Arsenal have definitely lacked. But at the same time, I kind of feel like their defence is lacking. Yeah,
it's whether it's the right transfer for the right team, isn't it?
I don't think you can doubt that Ozil will be quality for them. He is probably better than any player they've already got. But if I was Wenger, I'd be still a bit concerned that they didn't get a defensive-minded midfielder, at least.
Yeah. I mean,
what do you mean? They got Flamini in.
I was about to say, they've got Flamini. They brought Flamini in to replace Flamini from 2 years before, which...
Yeah.
I mean, that in itself is a bit of an odd one. I mean, there was obviously the odd decision in that game as well, where Sunderland had a goal disallowed at, I think it was 2-1 Arsenal at the time.
That is a bizarre decision.
Or was it 1-1, where I think it was Altidore bursted through and then kind of got pulled back by Sanya. The ref blows. Altidore is goal side, so keeps running and buries the chance. And then it's brought back for this free kick. But then Sanya wasn't sent off because apparently it wasn't a clear goal-scoring opportunity, despite the fact he scored when play went on.
I'm not sure if it is a clear goal-scoring opportunity. He's not running at goal. He's cuddling Sanya, and Sanya's cuddling him. Like, it's a bit of both. And then the fact he scores is Szczesny's fault, really.
Oh, it was terrible keeping.
Because you should probably save it. But, I don't know. I see why people think it should be a red if they're going to bring it back. Like if I'm a ref, though, I probably do stop it because it doesn't look like Altidore's going to get past. Like, Sanya's got a good hold of him, and Altidore's got a good hold of him. So it doesn't look like it's going to be a really easy resolution of, he's definitely going to score. Suddenly, like, Sanya just gives up because he hears the whistle, and Altidore scores.
Yeah, so. I don't rate Sanya as a centre-back either. He's not.
No, they needed cover at centre back, and they've got Mertesacker, Koscielny, and then who else have they got?
Marlon.
Marlon, that's it. And
that's it. Well, that's the thing. Sanya played there a few times last year, and I think he had one good performance there. I don't know if Wenger was kind of thinking to himself, well, we can get away with it for the odd game, and was kind of hedging his bets that they wouldn't have injuries at the back. I think Sunderland were a tad unlucky in that game, and I know Di Canio went off on one at the end, which I don't know if you guys have any opinions on him as a manager in the Premier League.
That's every game, though, isn't it? That he does that every game. It's just like he gets annoyed every game. The best look he does is hands in pockets, hands in the air, just then turns away and just looks and then shouts at his bench.
Yeah,
it's just like does the same thing every time.
I doubt he should even be a Premiership manager sometimes, because he has the kind of mentality that he wants to be his players' worst enemies, but not all players like that kind of management style. Yeah. And I know he's trying to get them kind of players that do like that, but I just think his mentality is not going to help Sunderland as a club, really. And I think sooner rather than later, they will probably get rid of him. I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
I was worried for Sunderland before how many came in. I'm even more worried for them now that they're bottom of the league with 1 point after 4 games, and they've spent the amount of money on the amount of players that they have. And I know people are going to go, well, they need time to gel. But in the Premier League, give it 10 games. If you're still stuck on, 2 or 3 points, you're as good as down in many respects. There's not many teams that have ever come back from being rock bottom early on to really overturn the deficit.
Yeah, you look at other teams in the league that have bought as well, and it's not like those teams have gelled, but they're not bottom of the league. Do you know what I mean? Like, you look at Everton, who have bought quite a few players. West Ham have got a few guys in. And they've clicked pretty well. Like, Tottenham are top, like joint top with everyone else. So, and they've bought, 7, 8 players?
Yeah.
So, different quality, obviously, but what I'm saying is, that shouldn't be an excuse. Like, they didn't buy anyone really late on either. They bought quite a few players in early in the window. So, I'd be worried if I was a Sunderland fan. I would be worried.
Obviously, Arsenal got Ozil. Tottenham debatably got their counterpart in the form of Eriksen, who had a great debut. Obviously, any FM player will have known about this lad for a number of years, and in fact, I'm sure anyone who's been watching the Dutch Premier League for a number of years will have been talking about this lad at Ajax. Comes to England with Champions League experience, and a lot of people not necessarily doubting his ability, but thinking, oh, there's this 21-year-old from Denmark who looks okay. But he had a really good debut, so I don't know what you guys made of Eriksen and kind of Tottenham in general, I suppose, against Norwich.
Yeah, I watched the game totally legally online, and he ran, like, Norwich were quite poor, but he ran the show. Just like everything he did was just, you can see with his doubts because he's playing in the Dutch league, but he came and he just looked like he's looking at the Norwich midfielders. He's looking at Bradley Johnson and thinking, "You're Bradley Johnson. I'm Christian Eriksen. I've played for my country a lot of times at my age. You're Bradley Johnson. I'm Christian Eriksen." And then just goes past him, and he's just gone. And it's just like he does that. He did that over and over again. And his touch, his weight of pass. That's what I love about players that come to the Premier League. His weight of pass is just perfect every single time.
I don't know if you caught the game, Omar.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I never doubted his talent. And I was before the transfer deadline day, like when they played Arsenal, it's like I was screaming that they were missing that one player between Soldado and the midfield. And then as soon as they signed Eriksen, you just kind of felt, okay, that's going to be the missing piece for Tottenham, because they've missed Bale, and Bale done everything for them. But with the players they've brought, as well as Christian Eriksen, you've got Capoue, you've got who else? Soldado, of course. I mean, it's just the kind of players that pieced together can do the job that Gareth Bale done, and I think it's more of an all-rounded kind of squad now, and they're competing in Europe, and the players they've got are capable of winning every game they play, really, if they're playing to their full calibre.
Yeah, I thought when I watched Tottenham, particularly, before the Arsenal game was a good example, but they just lack that kind of link-up man, the man who's going to, I guess, initiate the play from the attack, but still be able to kind of form the midfield and really give that defensive coverage when need be. But I really like the look of Eriksen. Obviously, he had a debut to remember. Perhaps a player with not so much of a debut to remember was Samuel Eto'o over at Goodison Park.
Is that potentially the best and worst signing of the window?
Well, I said to you last episode that I didn't rate him and that I thought they'd probably be best off keeping Lukaku. And
he went to Everton.
And he went to Everton, who beat them. So I kind of stand by. And we kind of had that discussion, didn't we? I know you were kind of backing Eto'o, and I was a bit, I don't know, I think he could be a bit of a hiccup. I don't know. Omar, I'll let you have the deciding vote on.
I think that they should have kept Lukaku, but they also should be happy they've signed Eto'o. I mean, Eto'o gives bags of experience, and if you see him play in the Champions League, I'm pretty sure he will do the job for them in the Champions League. But Lukaku is definitely a player that you would want to keep. He's that kind of target man threat. When you look at Chelsea, they've only got Torres, Eto'o, and then they just sell Lukaku, and then they got Demba Ba, of course. But I feel that Lukaku is probably the one player that I'd look at in that Chelsea team and say he would score a goal every game. If you put him through on goal, he'd finish it. If the ball was in the box, he would win it. And I just feel that Chelsea are kind of missing that threat in a way, because Eto'o can finish a goal if he's given the chance, but he might score 1 in 5. Whereas you've got Torres, of course, who's been the flop of Chelsea's whole entire existence. And I just feel like Lukaku's going to be a big miss for them this season.
See, it's interesting because Eto'o came on and there was a lot of... I don't know if it was just the Sky coverage. I didn't catch all of Match of the Day, but the Sky commentators were giving Eto'o so much flack and kind of putting so much pressure on this guy. And the way I see it is Chelsea haven't had that clinical or a striker in so many years, and it's going to take him time to get in. And he missed that chance with, I think it was Ramirez who crossed it into him in the first half, and the commentators were immediately on his back. And I was
that the Gareth Barry block though?
No. Before that, there was like a cross and a header that went in. But I was kind of sat there thinking, they're giving him a really hard time. This guy, he's not played at that higher level of football. No disrespect to Russian football. But then there was that moment of class in the second half, and it didn't result in a goal, but the ball came in and he kind of tried to chest it in.
Yeah.
And I was kind of sat there thinking, that is what Eto'o's going to bring you. He's not as fast as he used to be, but just that experience and that... He has that something about him. He's played at Barcelona for all them years.
Yeah, he's faster than Phil Jagielka, though.
Well, yeah, this is true.
I think with Eto'o, they kept showing shots of him because he's Samuel Eto'o, and he just looked like a player who thought, wow, the Premier League is pretty tough. Like, not necessarily difficult, but just a bit of a fight. And he was against Distan and Jagielka, who had two seasoned pros in the Premier League. You're not going to. That's not an easy start, is what I'm saying. It's not like you're playing a newly promoted side who are new to the Premier League. He's playing two guys that have been around the block a little bit. And Everton caused a lot of problems and played really well, and Chelsea just didn't have an answer. And I want to bring that on to Mourinho's record. If Benitez had it, what do you reckon it would be like? I know a draw against United, lost against Everton, which isn't dreadful. But if it were Benitez, I think he had a better record at this point. He'd be getting pelters, wouldn't he?
Yeah, it's weird how things go. I don't want to say English football's changed a lot since Mourinho was there, but certainly the kind of balance of power is swaying in the sense that kind of Chelsea have a very good side, and I probably would have put them down to finish first or second. But it's weird seeing a lot of the big teams, Man City slipping up at Cardiff, Chelsea slipping up at Everton. It makes you wonder, and obviously Man United not looking the strongest ever. I'm kind of sat here wondering, could Tottenham win the league this year?
No.
Do you honestly... See, I honestly think if they perform... I'm going to stick my head out on the line here. I don't think United, City or Chelsea will win the league. Neither of those three. I think it'll be someone else.
So I will take the bet.
At Arsenal, then?
I think it could be Arsenal. I think it could be Arsenal, Tottenham, and dare I utter Liverpool's name in there somewhere. I'm not that kind of Liverpool fan, but I do think...
For me, there's no hesitation, I'm sorry, but Mourinho at Chelsea, okay, that was a hiccup yesterday, but overall, they played quality, in my opinion, and if they took the chances when it came to them, they could have won that game 7 or 8-0, quite comfortably, in my opinion. I feel it's Chelsea's season to lose. I understand where you're coming from, though, thinking the Premier League's more unpredictable, which is great for the fans, the neutrals. But I just feel that Mourinho's got it all planned out, in my opinion.
See, the thing that annoys me about Mourinho to no end is, you looked at Chelsea yesterday. They go a goal down. And whilst I love Mourinho throwing men forward, the Ashley Cole sub off for Torres coming on, sticking on a second striker, getting rid of a defender. I love that kind of tactical change because you don't see it enough in football anymore. That real kind of, if you're not afraid, no fear in kind of changing the system. But so often Chelsea will go 2 goals ahead and kind of go, yeah, that'll do us now. They did it against Hull, for example. And I just worry that there are going to be games where they kind of either think, oh, that'll do us now, and they maybe slip up, maybe come back. A team comes back from a few goals behind or just 1 goal behind. Or on the flip side, there's games that they dominate, but they don't get that incisive breakthrough like they did against Everton. I don't think Everton played amazingly, but they defended superbly. And there's a lot of teams in the Premier League which can defend superbly.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that about Chelsea, that you don't think they're cutting teams apart enough, because I feel exactly the same about Man United against Palace and just in general. They just don't. They're not going to kill a team. They don't look like they're just going to. In fairness, United played a 10-man Crystal Palace team for half a game and scored a free kick.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. There was a few years ago when I'd look at teams in the Premier League and I'd kind of go, right, that guy's the guy who's going to cut open the midfield for that team, that team, that team, and that team. I look at kind of Man City and I would have said kind of Yaya Toure and Aguero and David Silva. For United, I may have said Carrick, Giggs. You know, there's players you can pick out in every side, and you're like, that's the player who's going to get the pass. You know, there's players that you can't afford to have time on the ball. And I kind of feel like those players are now slowly being shut out of the game. Like, a lot of teams are pressing up rather than sitting back at times, which I think is what I was coming back to, where English football's kind of changed now. Mourinho's kind of style in the past of sitting back or, you know, going gung-ho worked in the past. But I feel as if the whole standard's raised, particularly in defending. And, you know, there's teams who know when they go to, or when Chelsea come to them or when they go to United, we're not going to get that many goals. But if we can defend well, you've always got a chance. And I think there's a lot more emphasis on defending in the Premier League now. And I think that could come back to perhaps bite back some of the teams who don't have strikers who are going to score. And it's a worry that I have for Chelsea.
Do you think it's a question of reliability? Because for me, when Chelsea was so dominant on Mourinho in the first spell, there were players like Drogba that would not score every game, but he was just do a job. Lampard, Terry, Makelele, Cech were all so solid. And now you look at Cech and Terry and Lampard and whoever they got from now, Torres occasionally. I don't see a lot of reliability there. I don't feel like they're going to do a job every single game. And that seems to be the difference for me, that they haven't got a core. And I think it's the same for a lot of teams. I think a lot of teams suddenly have got weak areas and other teams are picking at those weak areas and picking at those weak areas.
I think it's a case of like a transitional stage though, because like you mentioned the quality of standard rising. I think the teams like the top four of 10 years ago was always Liverpool, Chelsea, United, Arsenal. But I think it's more of the stage of that they're staying how they were 10 years ago. It's more teams catching up with them in a way. And the Premier League's just kind of transitioning more into a tactical sense of a battle. And you bring up about defensiveness. I mean, Roberto Martinez, he plans his game out based on the team he's playing. It's all based about tactics nowadays. It's not about we have 11 players, we should beat their 11 players. It's more about let's counter their 11 players. It's kind of the game's changing in general, really.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of signings this window have been that kind of thing, especially with Spurs. Liverpool have done the same thing. They've picked players for different teams. Like Liverpool have gone out and bought 2 big centre-backs because that's what they were lacking. So when they play against teams that are going to throw balls into the box, they're now going to have players like Toure and Sacco to just go, no, we're not having that.
Exactly.
And get rid of it. And it's not a case. And then they've got ball-playing defenders when they know they'll play against Swansea, like they will on Monday night, and they'll just pass it out. And it won't be a big, let's fight. That said, they're playing Wilfred Boney, so maybe not. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's now opposition-based, the way a team sets up. And I think some managers are adapting really well to that. And I think some managers are really struggling with that and still hoping they're first. I think QPR are a great example. Last season, thought we've got a team, we're going to have to just keep trying to push at it. And they weren't thinking who they were playing against.
Was that really a team, though? I think Mark, you just panicked and bought loads of different players.
But even Redknapp couldn't do it when he went in.
Yeah.
Like he tried to play the same 11 every game and just think we'll just lump up to Bobby Zamora and we'll see what happens. And as soon as that didn't work or he got injured, that was game over for them, and that kind of did him over. Is it time to move on?
Yeah, I think it's time to move on. We've talked in depth about the kind of top half of the table. Should we go slightly further down? Obviously, Villa playing Newcastle, and Newcastle coming away with 3 points away from home. Ben Arthur getting on the score sheet again as well.
They done really well to hold on to him. They done really, really well to hold on to him. He's the kind of player that you look to. You talk about the player to drag out a result for you. He's the kind of player you look to that if he gets the ball and he's playing well, you'd expect him to score at least a couple of goals in the game. He's the kind of player that you say the big teams are missing in a way, because he is that kind of player for Newcastle. I don't think Newcastle will do well this season, though. They've missed out big time in the transfer window, but they've done really well to hold on to Ben Arthur, in my opinion.
Same on Benteke, though, who obviously scored for Aston Villa. I think that was probably the best. I know it was said, I think, on Match of the Day, but I think Benteke staying at Aston Villa and Lambert managing to keep hold of him was probably Aston Villa's best bit of business in terms of because Benteke is the player that single-handedly, in my eyes, kept Aston Villa in the Premier League this kind of past season. And coming into this season, I think it's always interesting because players have an amazing first season and then sometimes they'll just kind of dwindle out and they won't do anything kind of their next season because teams know what to expect. I kind of think that happened with Grant Holt, for example, at Norwich. I think that could happen with Michu. And so from Benteke, I think it's 4 or 5 goals he's got already in the past, first 4 games of the season. I think he's that player who could easily push Villa with the right players behind him into the top half in the next few seasons.
Do you really think that? Because I think they are relegation candidates again this year.
So do I.
I think in Weimann and Benteke, they have a strike partnership, and as I kind of think if you've got a team that can score goals, you're going to stay up.
The problem is, though, I look at every other team, and I think even if their first choice striker gets injured, they'll bring someone in who's not necessarily as good, but capable. I don't think Villa have got that. I don't think there's anyone close to Benteke.
I think they strengthened with Kozak, who's not a bad striker. He's been proven. I think they've also got, was it Hellenius as well? They've got for like £5 million.
Yeah.
I think it's more the case of that they're missing the kind of experienced head. If Aston Villa win 1-0, you compare it to big teams. For example, you've got John Terry for Chelsea and you've got Lampard. That when they're winning 1-0, they're going to dig deep and try and hold on to the result. When you look at Aston Villa, there's not really that one player that you look to and say the kind of leader on the pitch that's going to help them keep a clean sheet in a game.
No, you got like maybe Ron Vlaar, but around him is a lot of inexperience, even now, even after a year.
I agree with you, but I think the key component, if you look at teams who have gone down from the Premier League in the last few seasons, is someone who can score. They've never had that striker. They may have had a few quality strikers who do okay, but they've never had the goal scorers. You look at kind of QPR, Wigan. I know Wigan had Coney. They didn't have the players around him. And I genuinely believe in Benteke and Weimann, that partnership. I think that gets you, 30 goals a season between the two of them. And I think that 30 goals, and then as you mentioned, they've got some support. I think that'll be enough to keep Villa up. I really do. I think they've got an average defence and an average midfield, but I think they're going to be the team who try to outscore oppositions rather than, shut out games.
Yeah, that's how Lambert plays. I don't think they'll go down, but I think they'll be close.
So we touched briefly on the United game and the fact they couldn't break down Crystal Palace. Obviously, there was the controversial red card in this game, and I don't know what... Well, I say controversial. I don't know what your guys' take on it was. Dicker Choi getting sent off for what was deemed to be a foul inside the penalty area, which it wasn't, and arguably the last man. So
I think he's last man. I know someone said a defender could come across, but I think he gets a bit of the ball. I think he's unlucky. It's not in the area, so... I don't know. I think he's like it was very tight. The refs made a bit of a blunder, but then again, when Ashley Young was diving his body into you,
I was about to say Ashley Young diving. It's embarrassing because I know there was that phase kind of in the early noughties where diving was coming into football and people were going, "Oh, it's the foreign players coming into English football and diving," and now you kind of look at it and you've got Ashley Young, who's 100% English, just diving, and it's painful to watch because it just makes the sport look bad.
So I tweeted at the weekend that I think what Ashley Young does in terms of diving is worse than what Luis Suarez does. And I don't want to be this biased Liverpool fan, but the way Ashley Young dives is that he doesn't wait for contact, he creates contact. Whereas Suarez gets contact and then makes such a meal out of it. They're both as bad as each other, but I just feel like what Ashley Young does is worse because as a defender, I'd kind of be like, with Suarez, I'm kind of like, I've touched you so little and you've gone down. Whereas with Ashley Young, it's kind of like, I've not really touched you, but you've kicked me and fallen over.
Yeah, I agree.
Which annoys me more, just as a fan in general. I don't like to dive in at any club, but when Ashley Young does it, it's just like, he's so looking for it every single time.
I think you've got to credit the ref for not booking everything what could have been seen as a dive but wasn't given as a penalty at all because it was a bit of contact and as you said he fell over but there wasn't anything there really. Yeah. So it wasn't a dive. Ashley Young, he picks out and sees he's dived. I think the thing is when you've not given 2 potential penalty decisions at Manchester United of all places, there's always that kind of doubt that when there is a tackle that comes in that might be a penalty that you have to give it. And I think what Ashley Young did in diving creates then more dilemmas and more kind of... I know previous incidents shouldn't affect a referee's decision, per se, but I think it does indirectly kind of affect the referee's mentality when it comes to an actual penalty decision.
Yeah, I think that's been the case with Bale and Suarez over the past year as well. that they've got this reputation of going down easily, and Young's in that category. That refs now are kind of second guessing themselves because of their reputation. So.
And then Grant Holt just gets away with it. But anyway, moving on.
Every time.
I think the rest of the games are draws here. So obviously there was 2-1-1 draws, Fulham and West Brom. I think is it Fulham's keeper actually has made the most saves in the Premier League this season or something? I don't know if you guys caught this game.
I avoided it like the plague.
So West Brom got a late equaliser. I think they'll be happy with 1-1 against Fulham.
That was their first of the season, wasn't it?
I think it was their second. I think they're on 2 points and they're ahead of Sunderland, but they're still yet to win. And I kind of feel like them missing out on Lukaku on deadline day is going to be big.
Yeah, they're down
in terms of.
They are down. I can't see them.
I think Anelka needs to get a goal though.
Yeah, and then obviously Hull and Cardiff, another kind of lower table time. Sure, a lot of the other teams are looking at that 1-1 draw going, well, that's probably the best result that we could have hoped for. I think it was Curtis Davies getting a goal, or his first goal for Hull City, and then Peter Whittingham getting a goal as well for Cardiff to make it 1-1. And then 0-0 Stoke Man City. This is this is what I'm talking about when I think teams are shutting out the bigger teams now.
Apparently Stoke were the better team. Apparently Stoke gave a really good game.
I saw bits of it.
It was quite an even game because Man City don't have that kind of threat in a way because Pellegrini likes to rotate his squad a lot, and you're going to see that often this season. Because when he's at Malaga, he had a big squad and he rotated it a lot. I think it's going to work against him in a way. He likes to think that a lot of squads, a lot of players, a lot of competition, but he kind of backtracks himself because you have players in there that you doubt are really committed to the cause at Man City. You have obviously Nasri. You say, is he really there to improve Man City? I think it's more that Stoke are a close-knit bunch. You compare it to Man City. I think you can see why Man City could fail this season, in my opinion.
Do you think they're top four? Do you think they're easily top four?
They'll be top four, but I don't think... Yeah, it won't be easy top four for them.
I look at them and I go, on paper they're top four, and then I look at the system they're playing and I go, that's not going to get you top four, if I'm honest. Whereas I think
on paper they're top two.
I think it's on the flip for Liverpool, if I'm honest. I look at Liverpool and on paper I'm kind of like, it's an okay side, but it's not a Champions League side. But when Liverpool are playing well, then I'm kind of think, this is a top four side we're watching kind of thing. And I think kind of a machine is only as good as the sum of its parts. And I think that's going to be potentially a slipping point for Man City this year.
Yeah, I think they've bought well. It's just, as you say, it's just whether they play those players where they should be playing. I want to see more of Jovetic. I really want to see more of Jovetic.
I'm trying to think, what was the game today? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
It was Southampton versus West Ham, and it was 0-0. Let's not even talk about it.
Yes.
Sorry, West Ham fans. We will have something positive to say about your club one day, but we have got a Millwall fan here as well, so it's not going to happen this week. In other news, obviously, World Cup qualifiers this week, so a number of teams qualifying, national break. England looking like they're just about there with an average team. I don't know what you guys made of the England performance.
That is a brave sentence.
I don't think we're there yet.
Neither do I.
Oh, God, don't make me doubt myself now.
I think Poland will beat us. I really do. I think we come across a team with like Lewandowski, even someone like that. I think we will get beat by a team like Poland if we don't. Especially, we rely too much on Rooney, surprisingly enough. And Rooney's not that kind of player that we should call upon all the time. But when Rooney's not in the team, it was really bizarre. We just kind of missed him big time. I didn't think we would.
I felt the same, because I think he's pretty crap for England, but it looked like we needed his creative output.
Well, I felt confident until these two miserable chums joined me in the school and now making me doubt that we're going to beat Poland of all countries. No disrespect to Poland, if there's a Polish viewer.
I think if we're playing to our best, we can beat Poland 3 or 4-0. But the thing is, it's always with England, we'd never play to our best.
Again, I think...
Have we ever played to our best?
If you play to the standard of the players on the pitch, then you'll win stuff. But when they're together, they don't. I think that's the problem that Man City have. You can get
into the nitty-gritty stuff of this. It's like... With all the teams in the Premier League, all the different players, all the different nationalities, all the different formations, all the different tactics, when you compare it to like La Liga, for example, it's a clear-cut two teams they rely on really, in Barcelona and Real Madrid, and they know how each other plays. But then when you look at England, there's all different types of formations and all different tactics in play. It just doesn't really work well for the national team in true reality, really.
See, I think the big problem is that grassroots football in England, and I think this is the fundamental problem why we don't have better homegrown players, is usually you play at under sevens and then you go to 11-a-side when you're 12 years old on a massive pitch where the corners don't get into the box and it's a case of hoofball. And I know that a lot of grassroots football now, they're going from 5-a-side to 7-a-side to 9-a-side to 11-a-side, and you don't go to 11-a-side till you're 14, which I think is way, way better, because when I played, you go up to kind of 11-a-side, age 12 on a, pretty big pitch, and you're not encouraged to play proper football. And as much as you have your technically gifted footballers who will get picked out at a young age, there's just as many players who will emerge late and from the lower leagues who will have come through, grassroots football, not necessarily been at a big academy. Ian Wright obviously is the obvious example. And I think that's a big problem for England in kind of getting a style that works. You've got to get your players playing quote-unquote proper football, not hoofballing, from a young age, because that's when players best technically develop in their younger years.
See, I agree with completely what you're saying, but I do think we have the players out there. It's more of the case of letting them players have a chance. When you look at, for example, Tottenham, they've got a couple of players like Thomas Carroll and Harry Kane. I'm not saying we clearly can tell they're not going to be England kind of players because they've not done anything yet, but they've not been given the chance really at Tottenham to be given the platform of playing, really, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So whose fault's that, though?
I think it's more... You can look in more to detail. You could say the FA could step in and do something about it. I mean, you've obviously got the registration details where you need 8 homegrown players or whatever it is nowadays. But a homegrown player can be someone like Cesc Fabregas because he was homegrown.
Yeah.
I think you need to look more into detail, perhaps, of maybe there needs to be a certain amount of English players in every squad, or maybe there needs to be a certain amount of under-21 players in each team.
See, I wish England could do that, and I wish the Premier League and other football leagues could do that. But I think the stumbling block is it's to do with the EU's employment rules against discrimination, homegrown players. Like, you can't say you must have an English player in your starting lineup because it infringes human rights, which is just ridiculous. And I don't want to advocate England splitting from the EU, and it's getting all very political, but it would improve football.
All right, Cameron.
It would improve football if we could say, you have to have an X or Y number of English players in your team. And I think Martinez, obviously Spanish Everton manager, he brought up a great point this week, and he was talking about how he felt that Premier League teams maybe should have a B team system in place like in Spain. And I was trying to work this out in my head. How would it work? And for those who don't know, Barcelona and Real Madrid both have kind of B team squads who play in the second and third division of Spain. So the players in the reserves get a slightly higher level of football, and it also means these kind of fringe players who, are real Spanish players, get to play and represent the club that they're eventually going to go on to play for potentially, and get play in their style rather than kind of getting loaned out to a League One team and getting taught to hoof the ball, for example.
So I wouldn't be opposed to having a system, this might sound mental, but where you have a Premier League team is linked, this does happen obviously, you can do it on Football Manager, but you link every League One team with a Premier League team, and then you do every Championship team with a League Two team, and make it an easy path. Because right now you see loads of players from any major club like Man United or anyone. They've got one at Wigan, they've got one at Oldham, they've got one at Peterborough, they've got one anywhere. It's not, and then they come back into a Man United setup, which is completely different. Whereas if you try and, I don't know how you do it. Whereas whether you do it geographically or whether you do it based on where they finish. That sounds dreadful, actually, but you could do it geographically. So, for example, Liverpool would pair with someone like Tranmere, and Manchester United would pair with someone like Bury, because they're relatively close, and it'd all be kept in-house, and it'd all be, I don't know. And not only that, it would help a lot of teams avoid administration, low down the leagues, if there was some sort of financial backing, which would improve coaching because there could be money spent elsewhere at grassroots. I don't know. That's quite an out there thought.
It almost sounds as if you should be Watford manager advocating loaning an entire squad of players.
No, but I'm saying you could give 5. Do you know what I mean?
That's the plus point of a B team side. You get your team together, same setup, same coaches, different league, different.
But where would you put them though? Would you just
this is the thing we're trying to work out.
There's an under-21 league. That's the argument, isn't it? There's an under-21 league,
and there's a reserve league. Which is...
There isn't a reserve league anymore, is there?
I don't know.
No, they took it out for the under-21 league. But the thing is, I can see what you mean. The B team system would work because you'd have players like, I don't know, someone like Harry Kane, like I just brought up. You'd have him playing against a 30-year-old Dave from Norwich or something. You'll have him coming, he will learn from that. Whereas when you look at the Under-21 Development League, it's more of a case of situation where they have a free over 21 players there for fitness, like the whole point of that. And then it's still the same situation where the reserves are made of youth players, really. I think having the B team system would work. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't think it would work. It would work, but I don't know how England would implement
the
it.
Logistics of getting it in there, yeah.
Really difficult. Really, really difficult.
Yeah. Because obviously in Spain they have like Barcelona B and Castilla in the second division of Spain. I can't think of the actual name right now. But then they can't get promoted. So then you have teams that could potentially finish third or fourth that aren't necessarily ready to go into La Liga that get promoted.
Yeah.
And how would you do that? Would you have like the top 6 Premier League teams in the Championship with their B teams not being able to get promoted but being better than teams like Charlton? Do you know what I mean?
I do think it's a really interesting debate, kind of, how do you go about sorting out youth football in every country, really, but in England it's particularly kind of one of these things which gets talked about a lot. But I think we're going to move on. Obviously, we've talked about the national side. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the home nations and how they got on in their World Cup qualifiers. I think
they all lost.
They all lost. I think.
Apart from Scotland, the 1-1.
Which game was it where there was 3 sendings off? I think it was Portugal v Northern Ireland. And I felt so sorry for Northern Ireland.
And not only that, then they lost to Luxembourg.
Well, yeah, I know. It gets worse, doesn't it? You're winning 2-1 against Portugal, 11 men to 10 men, and it's all in your favour, and then it goes to you having 9 men and them having 10, and then Cristiano Ronaldo gets a hat-trick in the second half to get a comeback. And then you lose to Luxembourg, who have won 4 games in their history. So well done, Luxembourg. I know, was it San Marino got their first goal in 4 years or something ridiculous?
They did. They celebrated like they won the World Cup, which is great, really. I love to see it. It just looks really fun.
And then just rounding things up here, I've got a big list of all the teams you went through. So if you're from one of these nations, congratulations. See you in Brazil, Costa Rica, USA, Argentina, Italy, Holland, Australia, Iran, Japan, South Korea, and Brazil, of course. You're all in the World Cup. Mexico, it's looking bleak for you. But anyway, let's move on to Spain. We've touched upon the league system in Spain. Why don't we touch upon Bale and Bale Madrid, more specifically, and their performance?
Well, he went, and then he scored. He did some poor keep-ups. Do you know what? I said this last time we were on. I'm sick of the Bale stuff. I'm still sick of it now. I don't know how I put it in the running order, because I'm still sick of it. He scored on his debut against Villarreal. Ronaldo scored as well. Ronaldo's got a new contract. Barcelona beat Seville 3-2. Messi scored.
I
hate the Bale shit.
I don't think he hasn't brought it upon himself, and people are starting to hate him for it. But he doesn't deserve. He's had a dream come true move for him. He's gone to one of the best teams in the world, and then just the media just likes to hype it all the time. I think we should just leave it how it is. It's a transfer. It's a lot of money, yes, but
Let's get on with it.
It's the best thing for him in his life. He's on 300 grand a week and playing for the best team in the world.
I'm still waiting for the next goal film to come out now. That's what I'm waiting for. Childhood kid joins Real Madrid. I just see it. But anyway, I think there's Atletico Madrid and Barca who are currently joint top in that league as well. So Real Madrid, they need Bale to start firing on all cylinders. And I know I've uttered his name once more. Let's move on. Germany. Dortmund and Bayern both won this weekend, and Dortmund currently heading the table. What do we make of that?
It's surprising. Maybe. I don't know. I just thought after Bayern's strong end to last season, it would carry on and Guardian come in. I say this like Bayern have lost 4 games. They drew 1 and won the rest. But Dortmund are 100% record.
But early days, 5 wins on the trot for Dortmund is decent. Leverkusen behind on 12 as well, which... what's the name of the player who they lost? Schürrle, who they lost to Chelsea for 20 million. I'm not sure how they reinvested that, but they're not missing him too much. I know he was playing off the front man for them last year. But they're on 12 points. Obviously, Bayern and Dortmund, top, as you'd expect.
Who did Bayern draw to? Because they got 13 points, haven't they?
So I think they drew against Freiburg, if I'm not mistaken. So,
hang on. If we're gonna keep this in. If we're gonna cut off, come back, and then reveal the result, I think I'll do the reveal. Right? Yeah, they drew against Freiburg. Everyone.
I just wanted to sound knowledgeable.
The worst thing is we didn't even find out. Omar did.
I know, yeah. The guest is there doing our research. But anyway, I've got Italy jotted down. I don't really follow the Serie A, so I'm hoping one of you guys is going to act all knowledgeable for this segment and tell us what's going on there.
Rafa Benitez is Napoli have won all 3 games It's looking good. Look out, Arsenal, is all I'll say.
See, I do love Rafa because he got so much stick at Chelsea last year and he's gone to Napoli and I really feel like he's made some smart signings. I don't think they're going to challenge Juve this year, but I think Napoli, second in the table is certainly theirs for the taking with the squad they have.
Maybe. I don't think so. Maybe.
Well, who do you think's going to get second then?
Well, sorry, you're saying Juventus will win it?
Yeah, Juventus are going to win it. And
I think Milan.
Milan annoy me. Me.
That's not a reason that they can't get second.
I don't know. I just think Napoli have improved a lot more this year, and I think they're going to kind of cause a shock or two.
They spent the money well from Cavani. I mean, 55 million, wasn't it, for Cavani?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Higuain's a good player. I think Arsenal gutted and missed out on him, but I think they've shown him really well overall, you'd have to think.
See, I kind of feel like they've now got Higuain up top, and I think that's going to add some real quality, whereas I look at kind of AC Milan and I'm like, well, where's Shevchenko? And of course, he's been rumoured to be playing golf in the news this week.
That is a great link. Yeah, he started his professional golf debut. He was 40 strokes off the lead in his first tournament. You give it up, Chev. Go practice your penalties, lols. But no, I don't know. Like, who else would you want to see do sporting changes?
Well, this is the thing. It's like, who out of all the footballers in the world am I like that guy could do something? Because there's that Lawrence Okoye, who was the rugby player who became the Team GB discus thrower and got to the Olympic finals and has now gone to American football.
Can I say Ashley Young diving?
Oh, you genius.
It was so easy.
I don't know. It is really hard for professional athletes to kind of transfer their skills. So
I'll leave another cliffhanger. Wasn't there the 100-meter sprinter who's from Great Britain? One of you guys should hopefully know. He's been challenging Usain Bolt recently.
Yeah, Adam Jamili.
Yeah, he was in the football team. I forgot what team it was, but
Chelsea or Charlton.
One or the other.
One of them.
Comparison there.
Began with a CH.
It did.
Could be Cheltenham.
But no, I think it is interesting that. I mean, I'd love to see Usain Bolt just play football, so I could see actually would his pace actually help him at all. But in terms of footballers going on to play sports, I've got written down here Michael Owen for lawn bowls. I assume that's your Michael Owen reference for the week, Ben.
Oh yeah, he was. Well, Michael Owen, if he was to do a sport, he would do lawn bowls easily, and he'd love it. That'd be the best. Like he would say, "Well, this is the greatest part of my career so far." Bit of lawn bowls. If he was to do a sport, that is.
Let's go back to some Football Manager. We've got Omar here. And Omar, you have a very well-known Chester save, if I'm not mistaken. And today's Football Manager topic is lower league management in Football Manager. So I'll let you kick things off and introduce your save and kind of what the Chester mission was.
Right, so to people that are not aware, which will be a lot of you, I did a series on my channel, like John mentioned, the Chester mission. Basically, what I like to do on Football Manager, I don't enjoy managing the big teams or even a championship team like that. I still count that as a kind of, not an easy challenge, but it's a lot more easier than what it could be. Ever since about FM08, I've had the idea that going from lower league to the top is more satisfying. I think for much 2008, I was Fisher. In 09, I was Southport. I think 10, it was Luton. And then I done Dartford in 11. In FM12, I done Bromley. And in FM13, I done Chester, which I decided to do as a YouTube kind of thing, which probably did make my channel what it is now. It's nothing special, but I mean, the Chester mission was taking Chester from the bottom to the top and winning the Champions League, which I did in, I think, 23 seasons and 170 videos. It was, I think, 170 videos worth. So, yeah, I mean, lower league management is much more enjoyable for me on Football Manager than most things.
See, I agree with you, and I don't like to tell people, don't go as the Premier League teams. Like, if you're just going out, go as the Premier League teams. And I don't want to say to people who just kind of play the game casually or just enjoy the bigger teams, don't manage them. But in my eyes, one of the best experiences you can have in FM is taking a team from the bottom to the top and really enjoying that success with them. Not necessarily in England either, just in any division. I don't know, Ben, have you got any past experience with lower league management?
I did, because of where I was born, Jack. I think you were born in a similar place. I did a Boston save like 2 years ago, which I got into the UEFA Cup final and lost. And after that, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I've spent days, if not weeks, if not months, doing this.
I mean, it almost feels like, for me, when I manage a lower league team, that I've beaten Football Manager. In a way, you can't beat the game.
Not completed it. I do know what you mean. Yeah.
It almost feels like that I conquered the game and that you know, you can't do that, but it just feels like that to me. That's why I enjoy doing lower league management, really.
I know a load of people have been going to me, oh, you're going to do the FC United of Manchester save again, and it's kind of like, I love that save, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to replicate that on the same level.
It's the same as me.
Because with that save, I've gone from the bottom to the top, and it's taken 20, 30 years. And with this one, it took me, I think, 17. And it just kind of clicked as I went along. I spent 8 years in the Premier League, but I got the right players at the right time. And I just think if I was to do it again, it would, I want to say, tarnish the reputation and kind of the Road to Glory save. I don't think you can ever match it. And it's a tricky one as a Football Manager YouTuber because you've got this pressure on it almost to do something as epic as that next time around.
Yeah. What's your biggest advice? Like, you've both done really long saves based on being a lower league club. What's your best? Like, because I know a lot of people that won't even contemplate being someone in the conference because it starts off as such a challenge, or below the conference because it starts off really difficult. Like, your budget is just non-existent. So, what's your biggest advice? To just keep going with it, even when you're like, say you come 16th in your first season. Because I think a lot of people find that.
I mean, it's not about. Mine's not really a tip. Mine's more of a personality trait. If you're a patient person, you can go ahead with low league management. If you're someone that looks for a quick fix, starts the game, and doesn't really go into too much detail, maybe low league management's not for you in a way. You've got to really understand what you're doing, really. I kind of tend to think.
I think the best tip I can give you is there's two. If you're struggling, you've got to push on through kind of, I don't want to say the pain barrier, but kind of that barrier that you might have when you get to a certain level and you don't think you're going to get anywhere with it. And my other tip would be free transfers are just everything. Up to League One, you can get free transfers that will launch you through every league fairly comfortably, especially in the very lower leagues, kind of conference and below, or Blue Square Bet Prem as it is now, or indeed in any football kind of side that you go to in Football Manager. If you don't have the massive transfer budget, there's always free transfers out there. You just have to look hard enough for them, and I can't stress how much I relied on free transfers, especially in the first few seasons. You've got to kind of realise that the players that you sign in your first season aren't going to be good enough when you get to League One. So you get them on those 2-year contracts and they'll do a job for you, and then you let them go out at the end of their contracts because you've not paid anything for them. Yeah,
my tip wasn't necessarily into detail, but if I was to go into detail, you do need to think about stuff like that. When you say you get to the conference, if you're a Conference South team, sign a player with the ambition thinking, can he play in League One, for example? You got to try and think about stuff like that and look ahead, really.
Yeah, I think you both give really good advice there. I think especially that planning ahead, that is a really a big thing, because otherwise your turnover of players and money would just be.
I think the other thing is you have to be realistic with your tactics and planning. One thing I did, I took over FC United Manchester, 7th tier of English football, best club in the league. Debatably, I played a really attacking and fluid system. By the time I was in League 2, I'd kind of realised I need to play to my strengths here. I can't play this attacking fluid style when there's teams with better quality than me. I've got to hit them on the break. I've got to sit a few men behind and have a big man up top just to pump it up to. And so that's what you do in that league. You kind of have to, whenever I go to a club in FM, this is just general advice, plan 5 years ahead. Look at your shape now and go, this is probably going to get me through this division, but what am I going to do when this player is no longer kind of a dominating factor on my side? I need to have a new focus. So you can't put all your eggs into one basket and stick with one tactic. You've got to tread the waters carefully, plan ahead, and just see what works when you get there. But you've got to have a plan B.
Sound advice. Sound advice.
Moving on a bit more into Football Manager. Obviously, last week, me and Ben set the transfer challenge, which was the Arsenal transfer challenge, where you went to Arsenal and you had the starting transfer window to assemble the best squad you could on paper and then submit it to us on Twitter. And we got one response this week.
Yes.
Yes, right. We want more this week. So if you're sat here thinking, I don't know, is this for me? Go and do it. Sign up on Twitter. Go and follow us at the ForTheFans show and submit your entry. So the one entry we did get was kindly sent to us by Mr. at Ezra the Gaming, who said, my team could be better and I made some stupid mistakes, but here it is. So on screen you can see it. Looking at his transfers that he brought in Tim Krul, David Astori, Lisandro Lopez and Darren Fletcher for a total of €54 million. And on the outs, he didn't really sell too many players, but Mertesacker and I are sharving the big ones on the out. But now, me and Ben are going to talk you guys through our teams. Omar's going to act as some kind of boxing referee in the middle of us as we kind of fight our corner for why we did our transfers and why we think our team's better. And then you guys in the comments can vote on which team you think is better.
Are we going to keep a running tally, or do you want to
I think we'll do a running tally. We'll do a running tally.
All right, good. I'm pumped.
I'll let you go ladies first, so you can go.
Oh, right. Okay. So do you want to know my ins, or do you want to know what do you want to know?
We'll go on your ins and then on your outs.
So I spent 87. You start with 23 million. You can still try this, obviously. Feel free to have a go. You start with like 23 million, and I ended up spending 87 million. The players I brought in: Owen Hargreaves, classic. Robert Perez, Mamadou Sakho, Steve Mandanda, Jovetic, Imler, Calgaron, Andre Ayew. I got rid of Walcott for 23 million. Arshavin went, Jorginho went, Mertesacker for 13, Diaby went, Ramsey went. Who else? I've got so many bits of paper here. Koscielny went, Szczesny went, and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain went. So I brought in 90 and sold 87. I bought in 87, sorry, and sold 90 million worth. So do you want to know my final team?
I'll go through my team and then we can talk through We'll go through our transfers. So on my transfers, I did a very different strategy to Ben. Mine was a case of blow my load all over the transfer window, quite literally. So on the ins, £116 million spent. Wow. And then on the outs, only 60 million. Thank you to the monthly instalment fees, which are going to cripple the club's finances. I didn't go too crazy on these, as you can see on screen. Big transfer, Michael Chopra probably stands out to you guys, coming in for 70k. Other ins, Tim Krul for 8 million, Christian Tello for 10.5 million, Ashley Williams for 6.5 million, Yuto Nagamoto from Inter Milan for 11 million, Marek Hamsik, Robert Lewandowski, and Lars Bender. Those three players coming in for a total of £80 million. On the out, Theo Walcott out for 20 million, Jorginho out, Mertesacker out, and then Szczesny out as well. Those were the big ones for me. And then, Ben, do you want to talk us through your starting 11 and your thinking?
Right. Are you going to put it up on the screen?
We'll put them both of ours up on screen, side by side. People can see a direct comparison.
Right. So, as you can see, you can use the injured players. So, we'll just cover Wilshere and Sanya. I guess you've used them as well, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So, they're in. Mandanda in goal, better than Szczesny. Vermaelen, kept hold of him, got rid of Koscielny and Mertesacker. No, not interested in either of them. Brought in Sakho. Just a good, solid. 2 left footers, though. That might hold me back a little bit. And I just kept Monreal in because I didn't think I could get much better. I think he's better than your pathetic little Japanese person. That was points. Oh, I'm sorry. Inler.
Just hurt my feelings.
Just as good as Spender, just as good as Hamsik. And then I've got a attacking trio. Ayew, Cazorla, Calgaron. I quite like that. What's yours? Attacking trio?
Oh, I've gone with Giroud, Lewandowski and Cazorla.
All right, and then I've got Jovetic up top.
Omar, any names that stand out for you there on Ben's side that you're kind of thinking, oof?
Perhaps Sakho sounds like a great buy in Mandanda. And also you've got, obviously, Jovetic up top, who's a football manager god.
He's terrible.
He's not.
But anyway, on my team, I went with a 4-3-1-2. My trio up top is Giroud, Lewandowski and Cazorla. In midfield, I've gone with Wilshere, Lars Bender, the best defensive midfielder in the game, in my opinion. Marek Hamsik at centre mid as well, alongside Wilshere and Bender. I think those three guys are going to tear apart teams in this league. And then back four, Nagamoto, Vermaelen, Ashley Williams, Sanya, and in goal, Tim Krul. And I just think my team's better, Ben. I'm going to be honest. I mean, on paper.
Right, well, if we're going to be like this, Jack, I've got you in goal. Mandanda's just as good, if not better, than Tim Krul. Your defence has got Ashley Williams in it. So just leave it.
He's just a leadership role. Welsh captain.
I don't want to hear any more about it. I don't even want to know about your little back line.
What about the midfield then? You know, you can't stand up to Hamsik.
I think we need a bonus head-to-head game, an extra episode.
I think that might be a separate video. Every episode, you guys can vote and predict, and then we'll put up a game every other Tuesday when the game's not on or when the podcast is not on. Boom.
As long as my person gets the tactics right, I think I know who should win.
Who's your prediction? You can't just say that.
Oh, don't make him feel bad. Don't make him feel bad. Don't just Tell me afterwards. You don't tell him now, because it'll upset him. When you get upset. He'll only go
We'll
about
do
his
that
FC United
then.
Manchester
Next
save, all right.
Tuesday, because this is a bi-weekly podcast, we will have the head-to-head game uploaded right here. You guys leave your predictions down below. The votes are what counts. The head-to-head match is just going to be me making Ben cry when he loses.
Not happening.
It is happening, son. But anyway, we're going to cut it off there. As we said, next week's challenge, and in fact I haven't said this, but next week's challenge, guys, you're going to Real Madrid. You're going to win the league with your squad. That's your expectations. Go out and do the best first transfer window you can on the default 13.3.0 database for Football Manager 2013. Let us know who you get by tweeting it at us. And yeah, just a quick push of our social media. You can check down below, as I've already said, and subscribe to us on iTunes and stuff, and come see the podcast, and it'll be downloaded. So if sub boxes aren't working, you can see it there. Obviously, thank you to Ben and Omar for turning up today and joining us.
No problem.
I don't know if you've got any final words, either of you.
It's me, Ben, and I'm out.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
No, it's cool, man. Thank you for coming on and being our first guest. We're going to be looking for guests next week as well. So if you have a suggestion, leave it down in the comments, guys. And other than that, it is me, Jack. Thank you so much for watching For The Fans. Follow us on Twitter, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. We're out.
Sculpture of a goal, Pablo. It's perfection. Pablo, I think you'd be having to call for an oxygen tank for me, my friend.